Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to Rise to More. I am so bloody excited. There's so much joy in the studio today, and we always have fun. But today, with me, I have a special guest, a dear friend of mine, and a spiritual teacher of mine, Miss Betsy Weiner.
Hello.
Welcome to Rise to More.
Thank you.
I like we got our laughs in before this even started. This is
Yeah.
going to be really, really good.
I hope so.
I love. Okay, so we go way back. I'm just really excited that you're here. A little bit of a just for credentials' sake, we are going to have the write up in show notes. But Betsy is a spiritual teacher, and she's a registered yoga instructor. And you have been, doing yoga and spiritual work for more than 25 years
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
And but more like first and foremost, I think that you are a beacon of light in our community and a guide, a spiritual guide in these very, very turbulent times. And you and I have talked so much about this. But you call yourself, which I love on the website, this is my favorite thing ever.
Yes.
Personal trainer for the soul. So before we even start talking about the things that we want to discuss today, how did you come and decide, where did that come from, the personal trainer for the soul? Because it is brilliant and it's so you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, like all good ideas, they come out of nowhere. They come just when you are in the moment of being receptive to a download, I suppose. But it really came out of a conversation with my friend's brother at an opening at he owned a business. And we were all at the business to celebrate the grand opening. And he asked me what I do. And that's always such an awkward question because I can't really explain to people. I'm not a yoga teacher anymore. I don't really. So it literally just came to me. And I said, I'm really just a personal trainer for the soul. And he was like, oh, okay. I'm like, you know what a personal trainer is for your body? He said, yeah. I said, I do that, but sort of for the soul. And we sort of giggled about it, but it stuck right away. I came home and put it on my website. And I thought, that's really, if I had to explain what I do, that's sort of what I do.
I think it is so beautiful, and gosh, it is so necessary and needed. You and I have reconnected. We've known each other for a long time, and thanks to Aldrin, my husband, we've reconnected, and I've just completely fell in love with that was I'm like, oh my gosh, she's my person, of course. And when we met, it was just it was a given. But you and I've had many conversations. We live in, crazy times. What I found about you is that you bring such anchoring to one's soul. Not just mine. You do that for the people that you work with, for the classes that you teach in the community, for the podcasts that you speak on, for events that you speak at. And you've done it. And there is, just the wars, the chaos. My gosh, it is heavy. And I feel like it's getting heavier. It's almost like it just keeps getting... The storm is getting bigger. And I thought that it would be a really fantastic time and a rebellious act to talk about coming back home to self. And who else and who better to talk about that than my dear friend Betsy.
Thank you.
And well, my first question is, and I know that you and I have had that conversation, but what are you noticing? You've been doing the work again for a very long time, far longer than I have been in this world, and you can observe trends. You've been in conversations with people for such a long time. What have you noticed in the last, let's say, 5 years?
Wow. Yeah. Well, it seems like we are less able to manage the amount of influx of information. That's part of the issue, is we sort of, it's almost like we're gluttonous for information, and, we can't assimilate and digest that much information as human beings. We're just not wired to do that. So we're sort of gorging ourselves on more information with not a lot of capability to be able to digest and process what we're hearing, listening to, watching, and so forth. So I think that is part of the issue, is that it's just the fire hose of information. And we're wired, dopamine, we want more. So it's harder to turn it off when we know that there's access to it. But I also think that people are, sadly, maybe more polarized, less willing to come to the middle, as if somehow their willingness to come to the middle would mean that they would be betraying themselves or a belief system. And I understand that. I respect that too. But if we can't find our way towards the middle, I worry that the polarization is going to be insurmountable in some way, not to be a doomsday. I'm not a doomsday person. That's not it. But I find that people have a harder time coming to the middle. A number of years ago, this was right before COVID, so in the last 5 years-ish, at the time with my teacher then, my then teacher, I was assisting him at a training, and someone was talking about how upset they were about what was happening in the world, and this was pre-2020 elections, and this was in Seattle. She was very upset and very emotional, and thought, what's happening? We're here learning yoga nidra, these practices of rest and ease and being centered and grounded, and the world is falling apart. She was really seeing this dichotomy, which is understandable. And his response at the time, he said, you taking care of your nervous system is actually going to be better for the world than your dysregulation. And at the time, he asked us later, the other assistant and I, was that the wrong answer? Should I not have said that? Was that insensitive? And we sat with it, and I thought, I don't know that my dysregulation, anybody's dysregulation is going to be beneficial. So I find that we are more and more dysregulated, and there's a huge acceptance around that dysregulation. So that may be an unpopular opinion, but I find that we're having a harder time coming back to center. We either don't know where that is or what it feels like. It feels like a betrayal in some way. And I find that people are really having a hard time listening.
Oh, oh my gosh. I have a million follow-up questions. I've always told you, Hunter, every time, you're so wise. You're so wise, and which is why you are my teacher, why I really revere you in so many ways. But it's what a great answer. And I'm going to come back to it because I have a question for you that literally touches on that. It is interesting that the incessant information takes us away from who we are. It makes us dysregulated. It makes us righteous. There is no pause. There is no, moment of stillness where we can say, what do I believe? What do I even want? I'm rereading David Hawkins and The Eye of the I. And he talks about right now, it's just hitting me in all the right spots because I have been starting to over the summer pay a little bit more attention to the news and coincidentally starting to feel really anxious. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is the direct impact of it. I know what that feels like, just like when I'm watching a negative show, it just has an impact on me. And he wrote something that hit me the other day, and he said, there's spiritual activism and righteousness, and there's spiritual path. They're not the same. And it's there's place for everything, but if you want to be on the path of spiritual path towards, transcendence and enlightenment, social activism and, the righteousness in the society is not it. And it hit me. I immediately just completely closed off YouTube, closed off whatever the heck I was watching. I'm like, okay, that's it, enough. Yeah. Enough, because I'm really dedicated to that peacefulness. Well, how do you find that? You and I have talked about the tuning out the noise, the darn noise that is incessant, that is so addictive. I had to leave Instagram altogether because I was not as strong at the time, because I just realized I would just get pulled in. Yeah. I just had to completely be done with it. Yeah. What about you? How do you do that as a teacher?
Well, I mean, first of all, good for you for knowing yourself well enough to make the correlation. I mean, that's part of the practice, is understanding yourself well enough. And that is where we run into issues. That's part of what's happening. We don't realize it until it's too late or at all. So maybe not being able to make that connection. I watch this and this is how I feel, or I read this and this is how I feel. If we're not paying attention, if we're not mindful, that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but if we're not mindful, then we don't know, we don't understand, and then we're just anxious. So to your credit that you felt uncomfortable enough to say something's got to change. I'm on Instagram and I'm on TikTok and Facebook, and I sound like I'm ancient even when I say Facebook. I'm just going to show you my gray
What
hair
are you?
when I say
What
Facebook.
are you doing? Who are you?
It's funny. But here's the deal. I mean, especially with Instagram, a lot of the things that I follow are like things I'm passionate about, like design or fashion or music or other things that make my life, nature, things that I feel I want to see more of in my life. And when there are things that are hyper political or hyper polarizing, I tend to scroll past, or I have my own practices, I guess, around looking at these things and saying, well, that's someone's opinion. I mean, sometimes it hits hard and it's offensive, but it's also looking at what does that say about me? What does that say about my relationship to my beliefs? What does that say about what I believe to be true about myself? So, and I don't want to spiritually bypass anything and say, oh, well, it's all just peace and love. And I mean, sure. I mean, if we get down to the bottom of it, it is all peace and love. Actually, it's all love. That's it. That's the answer to everything. But that's not how we live our lives every day, all the time. And so how you navigate that, that's going to be up to you to understand those practices. I am on those things, but I also, like you, I have times where I'm on it more than others, or if I'm posting something that I feel like I want to share that's important, something that has come to mind. But I do my best to stay away from the super political, super polarizing, super angry, and spend time, looking at lipstick and
I
shoes
love
and
that.
comedy. I'm just like, okay.
Let's
and
laugh.
again, not to take away from the realities, and I understand I'm in a position of privilege that I can choose to do that.
Yeah.
And
I love that. Your humor is like your superpower. And, every conversation, even I can get very intense. You know me.
I love this about you.
I know that you do, but you break it apart. Like, I know when you like crack a joke in the middle, I'm like, okay, I've gotten too far. Betsy's telling me to chill out. And I'm interested in just your relationship with humor. And is it something that you intentionally curate because you know of what a relief it is and not to take yourself seriously? Is it just like part of who you've always been? Funny is funny and it makes me feel good.
Yeah, probably a little bit of both. I mean, I grew up in a really dysfunctional, we put the fun in dysfunctional household. My parents are both hilarious, and we had a lot of discomfort, instability in my life growing up in a lot of ways, compared to others. Very little, but not to compare. It was ours. And but both my parents are funny. My grandparents were funny, and my brother and sister are hilarious. So it was really around us a lot. I think humor as a value was important in my family of origin. And in some ways, I think I've used humor as a defense mechanism as well when I'm uncomfortable or feel like I don't fit in somewhere, that sometimes it's a way to break the ice. But the truth is, humor is also a way of connecting. It's like music. When we laugh together, it's a different vibration of energy. And it doesn't matter. Like, again, I sound like so Pollyanna about it, but like, it doesn't matter your background or what language you speak, or I've been to countries where we don't speak the same language, but something happens and it's funny and we're all laughing and there's a connection. So to me, humor is a way to connect with somebody in a joyful way. I'm deep. I like to talk about deep things and intensity. Those things are important, but taking myself I take what I do seriously, but I don't take myself that seriously because that just is a setup.
I love that about you. I've always loved that about you because I think that that's why we all feel so safe around you is that the work is sacred. But hey, I'm gonna crack jokes, and it's like it's just me in this bot, and it's so funny, and I think that's why we all revere you so much, because of that, and that's what all the greats do. That's what all the great teachers, I think, truly do. That's what you do for me, and I think it's really beautiful. The spirituality in general, or just creating a spiritual path, since I mentioned David Hawkins, you and I are, on that path, and that can look different for everyone. And sometimes it feels like the feedback that I get from people that spirituality is a luxury. Yes, now, I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to go to yoga nidra classes. I don't have that. So what I know about you is that you have a very different perspective on that. I would love for you to share, as like, for people who think that the entire process of being a seeker and coming to meet yourself is a luxury. Is it a luxury? Do we need hours to do that?
I mean, sure.
If you want
if you want it. I mean, it's interesting. I just had a client that I just was talking to on the phone just before I came here. And she's ready to restart a spiritual practice of some kind, a meditative practice of some kind. And she asked questions, like how long should it be and what time of day should it be? And she was asking very specific questions. And of course, most of my clients hate my answers because I'm like, how long would you like it to be? What would you like to do when you sit and meditate? Do you want a mantra or do you want it to be open? This is the thing. We need teachers. I have many teachers. You're my teacher in so many ways. I feel like everyone we meet has the possibility to be our teacher in some way. But prescription, that is a different thing. And there is a time and place for very prescriptive practices if that is something that you really want to do. And if you have, I would say, if you've laid the foundation in some way that you feel ready, there's a calling, there's a pull for something deeper. That doesn't mean it's not available to everybody. It's all available to everybody. I don't believe that you have to have attained some level of, I always said this about, being a vegan. It's sort of like, well, I'm sure there's a cattle rancher somewhere in Wyoming who's enlightened. Who am I to say that you have to, right? So that's not for me to be in judgment of that. But spiritual practice is accessible to anybody, anytime. What that means, I don't know. How do you connect with yourself? How do you pay attention enough or stay curious enough to wonder? Where's the curiosity and wonder? Oh, today the sparrow was singing in the tree. Is that a possibility to have a spiritual experience? Sure. We have a couple bats in our neighborhood, and at night, almost every night around dusk, I'm like, I gotta go see Batty. That's a spiritual practice for me to go outside and have a moment with Batty. But sitting practices, these are important too. But if the only place you're practicing that spiritual connection is there, well, that's a deeper conversation about how do you find it everywhere else? Because the sitting practice is literally the practice for everywhere else in your life. So that's where you practice how to be everywhere else. The way if it's working is after you get up off the cushion or out of the chair, that it's changed for you everywhere else, not just in that space with that experience. So I do think that it's accessible at any time. I had a client who was not my usual client. Motorcycle rider, IT guy, like super, tattooed, really interesting. But he found ways to take, 15-minute breaks before meetings and stop and pay attention to his breathing. And these are ways that he connected with himself. So is it a luxury? Sure. I guess I would call it a necessity in a way. If you take time to brush your teeth or take a shower, you clean yourself in some way, you take time to pay attention or focus on that, why wouldn't you do that with your mind?
Yes.
Sort of pay attention to what's going on to get to know yourself better. So that was a very long-winded answer, but
it's beautiful.
Okay,
Glad you went there. But it's
Yeah.
also everything else is going to be better if you do that. So a luxury, I think it's a necessity because when whether it's a moment of meditation, an actual meditation, or contemplation, like with Batty,
Yeah.
you know,
Can't believe Batty made it
I
into the
love
conversation.
that. Can you believe? You never know. I love that. It's a moment of just being. I've learned this from Steve, who used to tell me because I'm a sit on the cushion for 40 minutes, and I've been to your class. I love that because I can go really deep if I'm in the right frame of mind with a great teacher. But he said, I don't do that anymore. He said, I practice it every single day when I walk, when I'm doing yard work. I'm in contemplation. So he taught me this act of contemplation. So I was even trying to explain to my husband, when I'm drinking my coffee in the morning, you may think that I'm sitting and doing nothing, but I'm doing some heavy lifting in that cup of coffee. There's a lot happening right there.
Right.
But what it also does is that it brings peacefulness, so that when I go out and do every single day, there is an equanimity in my life that I don't normally have. And by the way, equanimity is probably the word I would use when I talk about you. You're just so, I don't know. You just make me feel like just breathe. It's okay. It's just, and I hope that our audience gets that today because we all need that, don't we?
Yeah, well, just a reminder of what is already yours.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm curious, what are you noticing right now? You talked a little bit about the gorging on information that we're doing and we're not listening, but what do you think is breaking people today? And also, what do we, what is it that heals them?
What do you mean by breaking people? That's interesting.
Yeah, but when we're breaking who we think that we are, when we're not feeling like ourselves, when we feel like we're literally losing our minds, the comment that I'm hearing from people who I can't believe, like well-adjusted, successful, well-meaning, kind people who are just losing their minds and they're anxious and the word is I'm breaking or I'm having a breaking point where it's just too much, right?
Yeah, how do you heal? Well, maybe the first step is to acknowledge that you're whole and complete as you are already. I don't know. It's interesting, a little while ago you said the word better, and I think that's an interesting word because we are so in this culture of bettering ourselves. But what if, just bear with me, what if it was enough as it is just right this minute?
Oh.
There's a little relief in that. You can put it down for right now. I mean, yes, you can make changes. There are things to shift or transform or change in some way, but bettering implies that what it is isn't good enough right now. And again, there are times, I don't want to belittle someone's pain or suffering, and so start where you are.
Surrender to what is.
Surrendering to
what
what
else
is.
you got?
Well, you can hold on real tight. You can try to push back against a lot of things that you can't control. You can be upset about things that are so far outside your circle of influence that you are stretched so thin. It's interesting you say this, though, talking about breaking, because I've had so many conversations in the last year and a half or so where people are really suffering, suffering, both struggling and suffering, and in pain and hurt by the world in so many ways. And that is tragic. There's no way around that. We have to acknowledge what we see. And then. And so what will you do with your suffering? And I guess I wouldn't see it as bettering as much as I would see it as healing maybe, or recovery in some way of what is already yours. I just continue to go back to this idea of not outsourcing it, but that inner resource. What is my dharmic? What are my dharmic tools? What are the things when I say dharma, I mean the things that make you uniquely you. What are those things that you can lean on so that you can fill in the blank? And then what is that going to look like for you? You're the only one that knows.
Yeah.
So breaking, you got to be with the breaking. You have to. And then how long are you going to break? How much of it are you going to let the world get to you? You could.
Yeah, but there's you're so good if you can just be with it and surrender to it, and then you get to decide. But then what? There's what I realized. I was I've been on my trying to get healthier as I'm hitting this middle freaking age that's driving me a little nuts. These changes and all. But as I get to the treadmill, the only way I can get through a treadmill is if I watch something. And I started watching the show Ozark.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen it.
Yes.
I had to stop because I was starting to notice it was getting very dark and very anxious. And I'm just like, you know what? As much as entertaining as I want to know where it is going, I notice actual changes in my mood. So it makes me think that sometimes when the world is like that, like you're saying, going back to what you said earlier, if you can tune that, if you just put it aside temporarily and focus on baddie right in front of you, like what's the right in front of you? Yeah. But we may laugh about it, it's silly, but it's the thing that it's just that it's going to be okay. Surrender to what is. You mentioned the getting better and the culture that you and I gripe against very often. And I want to get better. The whole point of the Rise to More is that I become, every single day I learn something, that I become a better human. Doesn't mean that there's a goal or higher or lower, but just rising, becoming more of myself. With that said, there is this obsession in the wellness industry, in the industry that we're a personal development industry, where it's like we're trying to fix everything right now. And now I think I clicked on one too many menopause things. Right. And now there's a fix for it all. I would love for you to talk to us about this incredible obsession. And again, we all have all these resources, but we're still just as miserable. What is happening with what are you noticing right now with this betterment industry?
Oh my gosh.
I even said it with a snark.
Right. Well, this is one of the funny parts, I think, of Instagram. There are a couple of Instagrammers that are hilarious, women around maybe my age. I'm a little older than you, so just a couple years ahead, that are hilarious, saying like, well, I ate all this protein and I wore a weighted vest and I did the 10,000 steps and I did, it's all this prescriptive stuff. Fine. I mean, if it makes you feel better to do that and that makes you feel like you're moving towards something to take care of yourself, then by all means, if that's personal training for your soul, if that's what you need, then by all means you should do it. However, at what point do you just acknowledge, I don't think we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? The cliche of that. Staying healthy is important. What healthy means to you, I don't know. I know what it means to me. I don't know what it means to you. When I work with clients, I ask them, what does that mean when they say, well, I want to get healthy? Well, what does healthy mean? I don't know. Someone outside of you, again, is prescribing what it means. We've seen so many fads growing up in the 70s and 80s. It was the grapefruit diet and the cabbage soup diet. And then I was telling you about Lilias Folan and the yoga, cat and cow for a half an hour that I watched as a kid, and running and aerobics and all the things, the fads that have come and gone and come and gone. But what comes around again and again is trying to monetize you're not enough.
Oh. You think that it's preying on our biggest insecurities?
Of course. course.
Of course.
I absolutely do. My dear friend at the Seeker School, Justin O'Neill, and I ran a series called Women in the Body. This is a couple of years ago. And in order to run that series, I did a deep dive for a lot of the handouts and the material that we gave the students, the participants. It was fascinating. I learned a lot about what's called the wellness industrial complex and how that is monetized. And so this not enoughness, and as women already in the world, not doing enough, we're either working too much or not enough, we're either home or not enough, we're either this or not enough of that. I just think it comes back to you are enough, not too much, not too little. Start there. Then you can decide what the rest of that is going to look like for you. Wear the weighted vest. Take 100 supplements. It's totally fine.
Do all the
things. Absolutely. Of course. If it makes you feel good about yourself, then do it.
But what about the intuition? What about the listening to the precisely what is it that we need? Because I feel like it's becoming, the entire process becoming so homogenous in mindfulness and wellness, and everyone is doing the same thing, and it's becoming even globalized. You wear a vest. I mean, people around the lake are wearing weighted vests. Stay-at-home moms, like, used to be only Navy SEALs used to wear that. This will last a year, and then they'll all be on Facebook Marketplace for sale, because it doesn't work. But what is it about the intuition about? I'm okay with trying things, but actually trusting what is it that you need. When have we, I'm actually, question for you, do you think that we have forgotten what it feels like to listen to ourselves?
Short answer is yes.
How? Why? Along the way, right? It's like, what are you noticing? What happens in the process where you completely deny ourselves the power of just listening to the soul within?
Yeah. I mean, I wish I really had the answer to that. I feel like that would be great if I could give you an answer. I have some ideas. We don't practice very much anymore. We don't practice listening to our intuition that much anymore. We don't take a lot of space. We don't take a breath before we eat. We don't take a breath before we make a phone call. We don't take a breath before we walk into the grocery store or into the shopping mall or wherever we're going. We don't stop and pause. We don't listen to ourselves very much. Where did that happen? I don't know. I'm not sure.
When people come to you, and you are now such a sought-after teacher in our community, like really, really well respected, and for all the right reasons. But when people come to you and they are in the state of like, I don't know, they're listening to everything else other than themselves, what is there a process that you lead them through? Is there I know you don't believe in prescriptions, but there has to be the certain things that really always resonate with anyone, no matter who they are.
Yes. I think the biggest piece is I tell people that we're going to work on the practices of subtraction. So what's not you? What doesn't belong to you? Some of it is ancestral. Some of it we don't even know. It's from our ancestors. We're carrying baggage from what we were taught from our ancestors, things we may not know from our parents that they don't even know. So some of it is really taking a look at what your beliefs are, what is true for you, and then being able to say, is that true for me? Where do I feel it? It's somatic. I mean, you said when I'm on the treadmill or if I'm watching something, I feel it. There's something, well, what is that felt sense? What does it feel like? Does it feel like gripping? Is it tight? Does it make you not able to breathe? So take a look at that. Then what is that? Okay, so move away from that. Then when are you breathing? When do you feel connected? When do you feel, and again, we can't spend all day, every day staring at the trees. I mean, some of us can, but
hello.
I mean, you could. You might not get anything done, but that might be okay too. I mean, again, where can you find the moments in your life that remind you of who you are so that you know when it's reminding you of what you're not.
Oh, say
Right?
that again.
I'm
That
not
was
sure I
so
can.
good.
I think
That
it's
was
gone.
so good. But it's finding the moments that remind you of who you are versus the moments that when you know, well, this is really not me. And I think it's that discernment in general, but it's you're watching something, or you're with someone, a friend, even a family member or a neighbor or I don't know, a piece of information when it doesn't feel right. But I feel like we have to pause, actually take a step back and think about that, and we just don't do that.
Not so much. I mean, the practice is sharpening the tools of discernment is a huge part of what I do with clients. So practices of subtraction. What's not mine? What doesn't belong to me? What's an old belief that's keeping me stuck? What's something I keep telling myself that just isn't true? There's no truth in it. So, okay, so then you start to uncover what's true. So subtracting some of that. But then sharpening those tools of discernment. What can I use? What are my spiritual, filling my spiritual toolbox, right? What are the things that I need? Is it breathing? Is it meditating? Is it writing? Is it music? Is it dance? Is it art? Is it creativity? What are the things for you that then help you start to remember, discern? Yeah, going to that party doesn't really sound like it's right for me, but going to this party does. Eating this type of food, I can tell my body really wants that right now. But this, not so much. You know, we spend a fair amount of time, if you're in the world of, wanting to look at nutrition labels on food, let's say, you spend a fair amount of time maybe looking what's in it or what has gone into that. But we don't do that with our information.
We don't.
We don't look at where it's come from or who's produced it or what its caloric intake is. It's sort of like, well, what do I want to take in? How can I be discerning about that?
I mean, that's so life-changing. So the art of subtraction and the art of discernment. And we're going to, what you said is so important, questioning the beliefs, questioning the things that don't feel good, questioning the things that we have said yes to that don't feel right. We're going to include all those in the show notes because those are the questions that the people should start asking themselves. And again, for everyone listening, you have if you're lucky enough to work with Betsy, you get to work through that entire process. But these are the moments that very rarely are we given a chance unless we work with someone who can ask us these questions. And I think one of the beautiful things about working with a spiritual guide is that we actually take the time. It's almost like we put it's a commitment of making the time. Otherwise, we would not make that time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're in the Zoom, you're kind of like you're a prisoner for at least an hour. You gotta do it. And I love committing to those practices because it really allows you to kind of look within and figure that out. What do you wish the people would stop pretending about?
What do I wish the people? I like that you just said the people.
The
people would stop pretending about. Oh.
What do you wish? Well, that's just my lack of my grammar correctness.
No, that's beautiful grammar. No, that was perfect.
What do you wish people in general?
I like the people. I like
people.
that. No, what do I wish the people would stop pretending about? That they have to have it all figured out. That there has to be a moment when I'll feel better, when I'm healthy, when there's some magical point on the horizon somewhere at which point I will be okay. And until I get to that point, I'm not okay. I wish people would stop pretending that was true.
Gosh, that's a racket, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do we, you and I, just here in this moment, how do we recontextualize it? Like, what can people say instead or affirm?
Yeah. I mean, I accept what is right here and right now as the perfect moment for me.
Because I can't change it
here. I can't change it right this second anyway, so I might as well just be here for it. I mean that a different version of me is not necessary to accept myself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I read Tara Brach's book, Radical Acceptance, When I first read that book, I don't remember, 15 years ago or something. I read that book and it changed my life. Changed my life.
It's called Radical Acceptance.
Radical acceptance. Because what is the most radical thing? You said it when we started. What is the most radical thing we could do? Well, that would be to accept what is right now.
As it is. Full surrender to what is.
You can move forward in any way you want. Truly, you can. I mean, read Viktor Frankl's book. You can be in a concentration camp, and apparently you can still have a life of meaning and purpose. So if he can do it, I feel like we're missing opportunities for ourselves to find our own inner strength, our own inner resilience by not accepting it, by outsourcing it, by saying somewhere. So the people that belief that somewhere out there is the answer, that someone else holds the key, or that someone else is my enemy, and because of that, I'm the victim of that in some way. I mean, and again, as someone who has experienced things at the hands of an abuser, right? What good does that do for me to stay the victim? I don't belittle anyone's experience. And I would prefer to call myself a survivor than a victim. I would prefer to say that I survived something, or I'm thriving in spite of, or because of, or... But that is 25 years of committed work to understanding myself. And I'm nowhere near enlightenment. There's no part of me that thinks that I'm enlightened or even close. But I hope I'm moving in a direction that is not on the horizon. I hope I'm moving in the direction that feels authentic, that feels aligned. And if I can walk alongside others as they do that, so they feel less alone, like I have had the privilege of having teachers who walked alongside me and still do when I feel alone, well, that is...
It's pretty special.
The greatest gift of all.
It's an interesting thing. It seems like all of the spiritual texts, the conversations that we're having, no matter what, it always goes back to reclaiming that self. The kingdom of God is within you from the Bible. The belief that you taught me a prayer, remember? Do you remember the prayer?
No.
Oh,
tell me all your secrets. I'll forget.
Remember years ago you were telling me, and I think it comes from Judaism, and I think it might have been
the morning prayer,
the morning
prayer.
Yes. Would you mind sharing that, because that prayer, and I mean, it's my morning dedication, and it stayed with me now for what 4 years, and it's just so meaningful. Would you share with the audience where it comes from and what the prayer is?
Yes. It's the first prayer that you're supposed to say the moment you open your eyes. It is prescriptive for Jews, if you choose to observe in that way. And the prayer is Modeh ani lefanecha melechai v'chayam shechacharta bi nishmati behemla rabba emunotecha. Pardon my Hebrew. It's not great. It's remedial, but still.
That's pretty cool.
Not bad. But my Hebrew teacher, Mara Tetke, thank you so much. Thank you. It basically means thank you, God, for returning my soul, for keeping my soul safe while I sleep, for returning my soul, and for trusting me. Emunah means faith. It's faithfulness, but faithfulness in a way that's not blind faith. Faithfulness like trusting that no matter what, the world is for you. We don't know exactly how, but trusting that it is. So thank you, God, for returning my soul, for keeping it safe, for trusting me to give it back to me so that I can be of service. Show me how I can be of service today.
Gosh.
And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be like I saved the world today, although high five if you can. That would be great. Yasna, you're doing it for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
But perhaps it's, I gave some cookies to the construction guys that are working in my neighborhood. Maybe I made one of those guys' day. I don't know. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. But maybe you smile at the gas station attendant or the grocery store clerk, or it doesn't have to be a big thing, but asking that question, starting the day by saying thank you. and then asking, how can I be of service? Seems like a decent way to start the day.
Oh my God, it is the most beautiful prayer. And it's funny, I trained myself a few more, like the moment I open my eyes is the first thing that I say. Like
Beautiful.
it's the moment I do it. And interestingly, a few years ago, I was watching Chosen, which is a story about Jesus. And I didn't finish it, but the first few episodes.
You know what happens. Sorry.
I love
I'm
your
sorry.
humor. I love that. That's so really funny.
Sorry.
I love it. But the first few episodes where he's just like being introduced, multiple times throughout episodes, he wakes up and says the same prayer.
Aw.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so remarkable. It's so beautiful. And I think it's a way to affirm. We're so much in the world of like, what's in it for me? And we're so in the turmoil of the world, becoming just caught up in all of it. So how beautiful it is to say, thank you for returning soul to my body. And please, show me the way. How may I be of service? Like, sometimes I'll extrapolate and go on,
do it.
especially if I
Yeah.
need extra
Yeah.
extra juice for the day. But it is, and I also believe there's an invisible guidance. When you ask, the answers come. I really do believe that with the humbleness and a humble heart, the commitment to be of service, to be love. And I think you get supported in that. And is there a greater calling that to bring a little bit more joy? Just before we talked to another guest who talked about the personal legend and how just get up and try to do the best that I can and try to bring a smile to someone's face and to bring joy into this world. Yeah. And I think that he talked about actually a Jewish tradition. There's 36 individuals throughout the world, the wise men who are bringing, I don't know exactly what I have to reference that. Yeah. But that they're the ones who are uplifting the light and the love of the world. And he looked at me and said, so I might be one of those. So I don't know. I don't think I am. But if I am, I'm going to go give it my best shot. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing, because I think sometimes we delegate our own power to others will do that versus we can do it as well. Right?
Absolutely.
Betsy, I know you well. I don't want to go too much into nitty gritty or put you in a situation to recount some of those stories, but you have had a really difficult moment in your own life, really hard moments where you have to build yourself up, and you've gone through some incredibly challenging times in your life. Talk to me about resilience. Talk to me about the strength of the spirit to get up after something crushing and hard and move forward.
Wow. Practice. Just keep getting up. No, it's interesting. I just read an article about resilience. It was just in the New Yorker a couple days ago. And there are studies that are done. There have been a number of studies on resilience. And how do you build resilience? Well, you need some adversity. You need to fail. We need to let our kids fail. We need to let them fall. We need to help them understand how to help themselves. We need to let them be uncomfortable. And growing up as a child in the 70s and 80s, there were a lot of opportunities to fail and be uncomfortable. Not sure my parents knew where I was most of the time. So there wasn't an issue with parents interfering. No, they did the best they could with what they had.
I had
right?
the same upbringing. I'm grateful for it.
Well, yours was extreme. My goodness, if anyone can speak to resilience, it's you. I mean, you have overcome more than most. And
you and I have talked about this. Everything is relative. Your pain is greater than mine. There's no such a thing, right?
I understand. But how we see it, and it affects people differently. It is different. There are things we can do. We can try to shift our perspective. There are things like this concept of emunah, which I happen to like a lot, which is this trust, this sort of faithfulness that even something difficult potentially could be a place for me to learn. I will say in the last number of years, I've had a family situation that's been incredibly difficult. And I'm sure it was many years before that I prayed perhaps for an opportunity to learn something And this opportunity has been given to me. So
Boy.
please be careful what you ask for, because it has not been exactly how I wanted to learn it. But what I will tell you is a couple of things. One is I have learned deep compassion, and I mean deeper than I ever thought was possible, for a very difficult situation, without being too cryptic. Something very difficult that is unchangeable. There's nothing I can do outside of what I can do for on my side of it, boundaries and so forth and so forth. But deep compassion for somebody. Also, the other thing that I learned, which was probably one of the hardest lessons, and this relates to resilience, was that I learned that I can love somebody who doesn't love me back.
Wow.
And that was very difficult. Very difficult. But what it taught me was that love doesn't have to be reciprocal, always. I can still love somebody, and they don't have to love me back, and that's okay. It ultimately is more about what I know to be true about myself and how I feel about this person. And I'm not talking about my husband, by the way. He loves me.
Just to be clear.
I love him too. But the resilience, I guess, is, first of all, so that was a little backstory. Resilience is also this piece of and the ancient yogis said that we're immortal. And I remember reading that and thinking, well, what are they talking about? They'd still be alive if we're immortal. They were lying, obviously. And my teacher at the time was great. He said, no. We die to ourselves all the time, but we're still here. But there are parts of us that we die to all the time. It's how we build resilience. It's how we grow. It's how we learn. So to me, there's this understanding of like, I'm building resilience by letting go of the things that don't serve me anymore. You outgrow something. It's like putting on a jacket that doesn't really fit anymore. And you sort of go, oh, it's kind of itchy or it's too tight. Well, you build that sort of muscle in shifting that perspective. Like, that's not for me anymore. That way of thinking isn't for me anymore. That person isn't for me anymore. That job isn't for me anymore. That difficult situation that I was holding on to because it gave me a sense of purpose or self-righteousness. But if your purpose is rooted in self-righteousness, well, that's just about the ego. There's no resilience there. The resilience comes in letting it go and reminding yourself, maybe you're a little bit immortal. Maybe there's a little part of you that you can die to and say, I think I'm going to outgrow that. I think I'm ready for whatever this other thing is, right? That is coming back to myself. Yeah.
I love that. And I'm hearing you say, I think if we could all just, whatever is coming up for us, the difficulty, whatever the difficulty is, we can do hard things. And going back to if we can surrender to that and not judge it and emanate love, man, I found that to be so healing. Loving others or sending them prayers, even when they do harm to you, that's been the hardest thing I've ever had to do because it just didn't feel right. And I can get a little righteous. And I'm like, but wait a minute, right? It's like if someone gives you a gift, you don't take it. To whom, does that gift belong? And I don't have to take that on. And that's a reflection of who they are. That's not who I am. Because sometimes you feel the only way to remedy it or fix it or teach them a lesson is to retaliate. And I'm just like, I just feel icky in doing that. So if you can do the hard, if you're in a hard place right now, it's okay. You don't build resilience without adversity.
No.
Just like you said.
No.
And I love that. What do you think, where do you see the world? I'm curious, in the next, I don't know, decade.
Oh my gosh, that is a big question. Where do I see the world? I have to tell you, I don't know.
I love that answer. Because we don't have to know.
I don't know. I believe that there are people who feel like we do, who do our best to move through the world, leaving it a little better. I mean, also a Jewish concept of tikkun olam, repairing the world. Feels dangerous to be Jewish right now in the world. I intentionally took my Star of David off, actually. So It's just the state of the world today,
Interesting.
right?
Okay.
I'm not denying a part of myself. We're talking about it, and it feels dangerous right now. And I keep coming back to that's not what I was taught to believe, and that's not what I know to be true. What I know to be true is the concept of repairing the world. So what is my part in that? I was taught that all of our dharma is to love, serve, and give. Everyone wants to love, serve, and give. How you do that, that's up to you. We don't know. I don't know what yours is. You don't know what mine is. Sometimes I don't know what mine is either, trying to figure it out, right? But where I see the world, I guess I'm optimistic in many ways, because I do feel like people that I come into contact with, I see a light in people that is unique and beautiful in its own way, even when I see people screaming that they want me dead.
Yeah.
Even still, can I still love them? Sure. What harm is that?
Yeah.
How is that harmful?
But there's that personal responsibility of being the light and bringing more light into this world that's already savage.
How? I don't want to contribute to that. It would be easy to do that in some ways, but that also feels like an ill-fitting jacket or something that's just not quite right.
Well, you, if I may, do a brilliant job bringing light and love into this world.
Thank you.
And I just feel so incredibly honored to have met you, to know you, to be in your midst. And I think that you're probably one of those 36.
That seems like a lot of pressure.
No pressure.
No, I'm not. I'm just going to say that for the record.
But a beautiful, beautiful thing it is that you're doing that, and you're doing the part to make this world a better place. And for that, I am forever grateful to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to I feel like we're so out of time. I'm looking at the clock and my producer is like,
let's go.
In
Wrap
my
it up.
ear.
Yeah, come on.
But we could talk for hours. But I feel like this was such a phenomenal conversation on reclaiming the self from the vitriol, from the chaos and all of it. And for that, I cannot thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all you do to bring this to light as well.
I love you so much.
Love you
We're
back.
so lucky. Thank you all so much
you.
for tuning
Thanks.
in. And we're going to have the information how to find Betsy in the show notes. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And always remember, you're the one that you've been waiting for.